Hey professors! So I'm sure you've all been hearing about the insane drama surrounding SM, Hybe, and Kakao recently. From melodramatic statements to overexposed tea videos, the founder of SM Entertainment, Lee Soo Man, has been battling it out with his own nephew and the CEO of SM Entertainment, Lee Sung Soo, for control over their company. But what exactly is going on? Who's in the right and wrong? And why are they selling their shares to companies like Hybe and Kakao? Well, I was just as confused as everyone else. So I actually did my research and I even consulted several financial experts to get a better understanding of the situation. And today, I finally feel kind of ready to break down this entire scandal for you guys. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, Fashion Chingu. Fashion Chingu is an online clothing store that helps you recreate K-pop idol fashion on a budget. The website actually sorts out their clothing into different collections based on the artists, such as the Red Velvet collection, the NCT collection, the Aespa collection, etc., which just makes it super easy to find your favorite idol's outfits. So for instance, I'm currently wearing this jumpsuit that was worn by Red Velvet Seulgi, as well as this top that was worn by Dreamcatcher's Yoohyun. And I also got this outfit that you may recognize from Twice's Talk That Talk music video. Overall, Fashion Chingu has been my holy grail, especially when trying to find outfits for my dance covers. And the best part is, they also offer free deliveries for all orders over $60. So what are you waiting for? Be sure to check out Fashion Chingu today, and don't forget to use code PLUBY10 for 10% off. Okay, so although it might seem like all of the problems surrounding SM Entertainment only blew up recently, this has in fact been a problem that has been brewing under the surface for years. In fact, the issues surrounding Lee Soo Man's control over SM Entertainment actually span all the way back to the company's roots. So it all began just 2 years after Lee Soo Man founded SM Entertainment, when in 1997, Lee Soo Man started another separate company called Like Planning, which was supposed to specialize in producing music for artists under SM. Naturally, it produced all of SM's music, though Lee Soo Man also made sure to lock SM into an exclusive production contract with Like Planning that would last until 2092.
NANI?
This contract basically guaranteed that Like Planning was SM's sole producer from now on, and SM Entertainment would not even be allowed to directly hire or engage with any other producers unless it was through Like Planning. At this point, you're probably thinking, if Lee Soo Man owned both SM Entertainment and Like Planning, then why would he have to sign a contract? Wouldn't that mean that he was essentially signing a contract with himself? Well, that might have been the case initially. However, by 2000, SM was no longer just owned by Lee Soo Man, because by this point, he had actually publicly listed the company on the stock exchange. This listing was actually pretty controversial because Lee Soo Man reportedly embezzled funds from SM in order to raise the capital needed to list the company, and was even placed on Interpol's wanted list as a result of this. But regardless, as more and more people began purchasing SM shares, Lee Soo Man naturally began relinquishing more and more of his company. However, he always made sure he remained SM's largest shareholder by far, which just ensured that he still had the most individual say over his company. And one of the main reasons why he did this was likely because of that production contract he had with SM. Remember that? Lee Soo Man also made sure to lock SM into an exclusive production contract with Like Planning that would last until 2092. See, the thing is, Like Planning had been charging SM Entertainment higher and higher production fees over the years. For instance, in the 2000s, the fees were around 1 to 2 billion won, but had ballooned up to an astronomical 10 billion won by the mid-2010s. This obviously made many of the other shareholders really uncomfortable, especially since Like Planning allegedly just outsourced most of the work to external producers and would then upcharge SM Entertainment with exorbitant production fees. And so throughout 2018 and 2019, several minor shareholders had actually tried to voice their concerns about this issue and proposed an end to the production contract with Like Planning. However, these suggestions were obviously quickly shut down by the largest shareholder and beneficiary, Lee Soo Man himself. In fact, Lee Soo Man doubled down on his money-making scheme in 2019, creating yet another so-called production company called CTP, which was, unsurprisingly, based here in Hong Kong. It's always Hong Kong. CTP was essentially like the international version of Like Planning, and as you may have guessed, Lee Soo Man took this opportunity to force SM into yet another exclusive production contract, this time with this CTP company, ensuring that CTP would be in charge of all of SM's English music, such as Super M or Aespa's English songs. And all of this obviously just further increased all the production fees that SM was already funneling into Lee Soo Man's pockets. Then in 2020, Lee Soo Man's nephew Lee Sung Soo and Tak Young-jun became co-CEOs of SM Entertainment. As SM's largest shareholder, Lee Soo Man likely approved of this decision, and he probably expected that his nephew would have his best interest in mind. Of course, we now know that that wasn't exactly how things played out. But regardless, at the time, with his nephew in charge, Lee Soo Man seemed pretty confident about his position, because just a few months later, it was reported that he was actually trying to sell off his stake at SM Entertainment, and had even been approached with inquiries from notable companies like CJE&M, Hybe, and Kakao. But wasn't Lee Soo Man's whole aim to remain SM's biggest shareholder? Why would he give up ownership over his own company, you might ask? Well, as it turns out, SM had actually been reporting poor performances and profit losses in recent years. In no small part thanks to its production fees. And things had actually gotten so bad that it had been demoted to a mid-sized business on the Korean Stock Exchange recently. In other words, it was no longer profitable for Lee Soo Man to hold on to his declining shares at SM, and he probably wanted to just quickly sell them off before share prices dropped any further. Besides, let's not forget that Lee Soo Man didn't actually care about controlling or owning any part of SM for the sake of it. What he really cared about was his main source of income, the production fees that he was receiving from SM. And he figured he could do this if he just sold his shares with the condition that the buyer maintained the production contracts with his companies. Apparently, he had actually tried to propose this offer to Hybe and Kakao, but obviously none of these companies were stupid, and they could all see how terrible the production contracts were, so they did not agree to his terms and all the deals fell through. Meanwhile, Lee Soo Man's production companies continued draining more and more money out of SM Entertainment, with SM reportedly paying a record-breaking 24 billion won to Like Planning in 2021. This was a ridiculous 36% of SM's total operating profits that year, and alarm bells obviously began going off in many shareholders' minds. In particular, one of the minority shareholders, Align Partners, was especially passionate about this issue, and they began publicly campaigning for an end to these production contracts.
그리고 개인 사업자세요, 개인 사업자.
예.
회사하고 계약을 맺어가지고 매출의 최대 6% 정도를
네.
받아가시는데 그게 지금 22년 동안 상장 이후 22년 동안 1,500억이 됐어요.
네.
그래서 작년에 SM 영업이익이 570억?
예.
그런데 이수만 총괄 프로듀서가 받아간 게 240억이에요. 영업이익의 40%를 넘거든요.
Now, Align Partners themselves actually only owned about 1% of the company, but they knew that if they aligned themselves, no pun intended, with other shareholders, then they could potentially combine their power and outvote Lee Soo Man, which was exactly what they did. In March of 2022, Align Partners actually managed to gather enough support from other shareholders to appoint an independent auditor to re-evaluate SM's business costs. As news of this went around, Sampro TV actually did an interview with CEO Lee Sung Soo, where they drilled him with questions about his uncle's production company. And it might surprise you that Lee Sung Soo actually defended Lee Soo Man during this interview.
이미 10년 이상을 이런 미래 사업을 내다보고 그게 바로 SM 엔터테인먼트의 프로듀싱의 근본이고
예.
이 부분을 수행하는 사람이 바로 이순만 총괄 프로듀서입니다.
JYP의 박진영,
그렇지.
하이브의 방시혁 똑같이 프로듀싱 할 것 같은데
네.
그분들은 그렇게 안 받아가지 않느냐.
네.
근데 왜 이수만 프로듀서만 별도의 돈을 받아가야 하느냐
네.
하는 질문이 있을 수 있을 것 같은데.
있을 수 있죠.
예.
네.
뭐 셰프니까 다 똑같이 급여를 받아야 되고 셰프는 다 음식 다 만들 수 있는 거 아니야? 그럴 수 없죠. 작은 어떤 회사가 있습니다. 이 회사가 자본은 있는데
네.
글로벌 엔터테인먼트, 음악을 기반으로 한 글로벌 엔터테인먼트 사업을 하고 싶어요.
예.
이수만 프로듀서 영입하고 싶지 않을까요? 그리고 그분을 영입하기 위해서 매출의 6%를 지급한다. 그런 계약 할 수 있지 않을까 생각하고 그렇게 영입된 이수만 프로듀서가 이 신생 기업에 끼치는 기업의 어떻게 보면 가치에 대한 이
예.
업사이드 부분을
예.
무시할 수가 없죠.
Unfortunately, though, Lee Sung Soo couldn't maintain his devotion to his uncle forever, as this would be the last time he publicly defended Lee Soo Man and his production companies. As more and more shareholders banded together, it's likely they exerted increasing pressure on Lee Sung Soo and other SM executives, which might have been what caused them to finally turn against Lee Soo Man. And in October of 2022, these shareholders even managed to successfully outvote him, which allowed SM to finally terminate that problematic contract with Like Planning. At the time, Lee Soo Man's other company, CTP, managed to slip under the radar, as that was a separate contract that still remained active. But this too didn't last for long, because in February of 2023, Lee Soo Man suffered yet another attack when SM announced their vision for a newly restructured SM 3.0.
SM 3.0에서 SM의 지향점은 팬, 주주 중심의 글로벌 엔터테인먼트 회사로의 도약입니다.
On its surface, SM 3.0 was supposed to be a new era for SM, allowing the company to experiment with different sounds and genres and diversify its musical style, which in theory sounds like something everyone should be able to get behind. Except its true intentions were also clear as day, to get rid of Lee Soo Man as a producer once and for all. The system would involve having multiple production centers and labels, effectively getting rid of the monopoly production system that Lee Soo Man had tried so hard to maintain. Worse yet, this whole SM 3.0 strategy was apparently secretly organized without the knowledge of Lee Soo Man, who was said to have been greatly shocked after hearing the public announcement. Now, of course, Lee Soo Man did have a few allies, such as Kim Min Jong, a longtime singer and actor under SM Entertainment. However, it seemed most people were not on his side. Many of the company staff were apparently in support of the plan, and the other shareholders who had long opposed his production contracts certainly didn't seem to have a problem with it either. But things were only about to get worse for Lee Soo Man when on the 7th of February, it was announced that Kakao had bought a 9% stake at SM, making them the second largest shareholder only after Lee Soo Man himself. Now, if you recall, earlier I mentioned that around 2 years ago, Kakao had actually tried to purchase shares from Lee Soo Man, but all their deals fell through. Apparently, he had actually tried to propose this offer to Hybe and Kakao, but obviously none of these companies were stupid, and they could all see how terrible the production contracts were, so they did not agree to his terms and all the deals fell through. So, how and where did Kakao suddenly buy all these shares from? Well, according to Lee Soo Man, he believes that SM and the other shareholders actually went behind his back and created new shares to sell to Kakao, which he claims was all done in an attempt to weaken his position in the company. To truly understand what Lee Soo Man means here, I think we should illustrate this using an example. Let's say that, for example, SM was split into 100 shares, with each share being worth 1% of the company. In this case, if Lee Soo Man owns 18 out of 100 shares, he would naturally own 18% of the company. However, if another 9 shares are suddenly added, then that would decrease the worth of each share to only being around 0.92% of the company, meaning that Lee Soo Man's 18 shares would now only be worth around 16.5% of the company. This process is called share dilution, and as you can imagine, it has a huge impact on shareholders, which is why in many countries it is actually illegal for companies to just issue new shares without shareholder approval first. Now, obviously, I'm not familiar with the laws in Korea, and I haven't read through SM's articles of association, so I'm not making a definitive statement on whether I think it is legal or not. However, Lee Soo Man's lawyers released a statement saying that they believe what SM and the other shareholders did here is indeed a violation of Korea's commercial laws, and he even revealed that Lee Soo Man will be taking civil and criminal action against all the parties involved. Overall, it was clear to Lee Soo Man that the other shareholders were obviously ganging up with SM's executives and voting against his interests at every turn. He knew he was unlikely to regain his power in the company, and now that his production contracts had also been terminated, there really was no point associating with SM Entertainment any further. Lee Soo Man figured he was better off just selling his shares at a good price and wiping his hands clean of SM Entertainment, which was why on the 10th of February, he sold 14.8% of his shares to Hybe, making Hybe SM's new largest shareholder. Not only did this deal allow Lee Soo Man to walk away with a hefty 422 billion won, it was also a big FU to the CEOs and senior staff at SM who he felt had betrayed him, especially since Hybe then announced that they intend on acquiring up to 40% of SM within the next few months. And with so much power over the company, they could very well decide to restructure SM's leadership and replace their CEOs and senior staff. Maybe that's why Lee Sung Soo and the other senior executives at SM have been so against the acquisition, with them calling the entire situation a quote, hostile takeover.
이는 현 경영진 및 이사회와 협의 과정을 거치지 않은 명백한 적대적 M&A 시도에 해당합니다. 하이브는 이번 적대적 M&A 시도를 통해 SM의 이사회를 장악함으로써 경영권을 행사하려고 하는 것 같습니다.
Now, of course, none of them mentioned concerns over their own jobs, though. Instead, they've been trying to appeal to the public by acting concerned about SM's future, releasing a series of videos about the potential impact Hybe's takeover could have on SM's artists and fans. Additionally, Lee Sung Soo has also gone on a personal tirade against his uncle Lee Soo Man, accusing him of all sorts of things ranging from tax evasion to wanting to start casinos to selling marijuana. He also accused Lee Soo Man of ruining Aespa's comeback songs by including lyrics about his own business ventures.
이수만은 A&R 팀 그리고 유영진 이사님에게 앞으로 SM에서 나올 모든 주요한 곡들에는 나무 심기, 서스테이너빌리티를 투영하기를 지시했습니다. 공들여서 만들어 놓은 이 세계관이 돋보이는 그룹 에스파에게도 전혀 음악과는 어울리지 않는 이 나무 심기 가사를 넣은 노래를 부를 것을 지시한 것입니다. 가사 일부에는 Just Sustainability, 1도라도 낮출, 상생, 그미즘 이런 엉뚱한 디렉션으로 인해서 그 누구도 공감할 수 없는 컨텐츠를 만들어야 했습니다. 저희 공동대표는 에스파를 위해 이번 곡에 대한 발매는 취소되어야 한다.
And even claimed that his uncle should quote, seek forgiveness if he doesn't want to go to hell.
이제 저와 함께 모두에게 무릎 꿇고 용서를 구하십시오. 이것이 제가 제자로서 저의 선생님인 당신을
For his part, Lee Soo Man has also sunk to his nephew's level, expressing supposed sadness over his estranged relationship with his nephew and giving personal anecdotes about how he watched his nephew grow up and how his heart hurts over the situation. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's clear that all the parties involved are simply hoping to appeal to the public by making this some sort of emotional family drama. And is it any surprise that the public is actually falling for it? I mean, maybe I'm just cynical, but I'm certainly not buying all the emotional talk about people's hearts hurting or having to kneel before God. At the end of the day, everyone involved, whether it's Lee Sung Soo, Lee Soo Man, Kakao, or Hybe, are simply rich people trying to broker deals that give them the most financial advantages, which I guess is the whole point of doing business. On the bright side though, there seems to be some good changes on the horizon for SM, with them announcing an end to NCT's infinite expansion system, which is something the boys definitely deserve, as well as a new comeback for Red Velvet, which I'm super excited for. Of course, there's still a lot we don't know and new information could surface anytime. But at least for now, I hope this video has cleared up the situation and given you a better idea of everyone's potential motives in this massive controversy. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. If you can't tell, I spent a ton of time researching things like the stock market, shareholder regulations, and other boring stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, then I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And with that said, I'll see you guys soon. Bye! Thank you for watching and special thanks to my Patreon members for supporting this channel. I mostly post music video reactions and other bonus content on my Patreon, and I'm currently also reacting to Boys Planet every week. So if that sounds interesting to you, then be sure to check it out.